I'm Bryan Norcross with a tropics update here. I'll go over what we've been talking about on Fox Weather here this morning. We've been talking about an unusual storm track in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. And in the Pacific, that means there are systems heading toward Hawaii. So let's take a look at the first one that's called Invest 90/91E. I have never seen that, but it's because we actually have two systems here. One to the south called 90E, and then the dominant system is this 91E. The E there is means Eastern Pacific. In the Atlantic, they use L, and they use this odd numbering system. It goes up to 99, and then it goes back to 90, because this was all an internal system. It was never designed to be used in the public. So when they designed this, they used it for their computers and their databases, and that's why we have these funny numbers. But in any case, that's what it's called, with a 90% chance it's going to develop into at least a tropical depression, but these two systems are going to have to merge before that happens. The other thing to notice here is between where these systems are and Hawaii, there's all this air out here that has this kind of speckled look to it. That means the air is quite dry and the clouds can't really form in a uniform kind of way. And so the systems are going to have to navigate through the dry air to get on over to Hawaii. And here you see the two systems, one here to the north and the other one down to the south. What's going to happen is this circulation is just going to die out, and it's going to kind of wrap up in here. The moisture wraps up into this northern one. That's the expectation, as it moves to the west, and then it becomes a tropical depression and maybe Tropical Storm Hector. You may have seen the system that is to the east of all these. That's a hurricane. We're going to talk about Hurricane Gilma here in just a moment. All right, this is the development zone for when these systems kind of merge. The expectation is that in here they'll develop into a tropical depression in the next day or two as they move toward the Hawaiian Islands. This is not a cone in the sense that we normally think about it. That's why it's short. It's just the development area. Where is this most likely to become a depression or a tropical storm? And since it's very likely going to happen soon, the development area isn't very big. But the thing is that the system, as it moves on off in the direction of the Hawaiian Islands, going to move into air that is quite dry. And look at the water temperatures. This line here where the dark and the light oranges meet, this is the line where the water temperatures are in the 80s down to the south here, and the 70s on up to the north. So it's going to get into cooler water, and that's going to keep it from getting very strong. At least that's the expectations. So here's the projections of the various computer models. And notice we have high consensus that this is indeed going to move in the direction of the Hawaiian Islands, but how strong could it possibly be when it gets there with both of these things that it's fighting? The expectation is it would not be terribly strong, but we could indeed have a tropical storm. See, when we look at the uncertainty models, the certainty is that it's going in the direction of the Hawaiian Islands, but the uncertainty is that over in here we have a lot of lines, you see, and then we have fewer when we get over here. That means that some possibility is that it kind of dies out and it's just a moisture surge. Others that it hangs together and we have some kind of tropical storm. The thing is that moving south of the islands like this means that the circulation goes around like that, and that means that the moisture runs into the mountainous islands. So even if the L, or the low pressure system, is south of the islands, still you get moisture going across those higher mountainous islands. So the Big Island and Maui look the most threatened at this point on the windward side of the island, but we'll see. We're talking about late in the weekend when it gets there in whatever form. Let's see what develops here in the next day or two and how strong the system is. But all indications are a weakening of whatever develops over the relatively warm water now, before it gets over to the islands. Now, Gilma, this other system, which is a hurricane at this point here, with 75-mile-an-hour winds moving off to the west at only 10 miles an hour, so not moving very fast. And the expectation with Gilma is that over the warm water, it will strengthen into a 105-mile-an-hour hurricane, but then by next week, it's weakening, heading in the general direction of the islands. The long-range projections are it moves north of the islands, but of course, Hawaii is going to have to watch this one as well. When systems move north of the islands, by the way, if that's what happens, generally they don't have much effect on the Hawaiian Islands. They can actually reduce the trade winds across the islands, but not any significant effect. But we'll see. There's still a long way to go with that one. It's just not moving very fast. So here's the story in the Atlantic. We have this just large high pressure system here with nothing going on. That's the Bermuda Azores High, it's called there. And the moisture, the tropical moisture, is all trapped down here to the south. And just kind of strung out, and you notice it kind of moves over and dies out even before it gets to the islands. We do get some impulses coming in. And the other thing is we have this front that moved off the East Coast that is making it very cool in the northeastern part of the country. So just a very hostile system. And the main thing that's happening is the Sahara Dust season, which normally is over by the middle of August, is continuing. So we have the moisture. If you watch the system, look at it rolling off. You see the system kind of rolling through the dust, and then it tries to get off the Atlantic, but it's dried out by the dust. So it's like a big sponge over the tropical systems that are coming off of Africa. So what's happening is that the storm track, the place where we normally get the spinning, is too far to the north right now for anything to develop. Here's all the dry air here where the brown is. The moisture is down to the south. But the Intertropical Convergence zone, it's called, this is where the winds from the south meet the winds from the north, and we get spin going here. The spin gathers the moisture, it moves off, it eventually becomes a depression, a tropical storm, or hurricane sometimes, and not most of the time, but sometimes that happens. But right now, that spin is very far north up by the islands. It normally this time of year is on down here farther south, and so it can dip under what's left of the Saharan dust season. So with the dust season lasting longer and the area where the spin is too far north, we're not getting anything to develop. Now, looking ahead, we're looking ahead now all the way into late August and early September. The long-range projections are a development zone here near the islands, or I'm thinking even farther west as we get into September. So perhaps we're not going to have a season like in 2005, for example, when everything developed closer, all the significant systems, Katrina, Rita, Wilma, all developed closer to the U.S. Maybe that's what will happen, or maybe will be like 2002, just 2 years ago, when in September, boom, it kicked in and the dust moved out of the way and the season just started. It just started late, and indications are that the conditions all seem very conducive for storms to develop, but probably not until we get closer to September, or maybe even into the beginning of September. So enjoy it while it lasts. There's nothing bad about this, and what's heading for Hawaii probably will not be terribly strong, but still could cause problems on the mountainous islands, especially on the windward side. So we'll keep an eye out for that.